There's a dangerous misunderstanding in today's world. Many people confuse kindness with weakness. They see a gentle spirit and assume it's a lack of strength. They see compassion and assume it's an open door for manipulation. But true kindness is never weakness. It's courage wrapped in grace. It takes strength to stay calm when provoked, patience to listen when others shout, and compassion to understand when you could easily judge. When your kindness meets someone's insecurity or hunger for control, they twist it into an invitation for dominance. But remember, your calmness doesn't mean you can't roar. It means you choose peace over ego. There's a painful irony that follows kind people through life. The softer your heart, the harder the world often treats you. Many people mistake kindness for weakness, not because kindness is weak, but because they cannot understand strength that doesn't shout. They look at your calmness and assume it's passivity. They see your patience and interpret it as surrender. They see your silence and think you have no voice. But here's the truth. Kindness is not the absence of strength. It's the mastery of it. It's strength under control. It's the ability to stay composed when others are losing their temper. It's the courage to forgive when revenge feels justified. It's the discipline to stay gentle in a world that keeps daring you to become bitter. People who mistake kindness for weakness are usually at war with themselves. They can't comprehend a power that doesn't need to dominate. To them, control equals strength and gentleness equals vulnerability. But true strength is not about overpowering others. It's about mastering yourself. Anyone can react in anger, but it takes a truly powerful person to respond with understanding. When your kindness is met with disrespect, don't internalize it as failure. See it for what it is, a reflection of the other person's perception, not your reality. Their inability to recognize your strength does not diminish it. Think of water. It is soft enough to nurture life, yet powerful enough to cut through stone. That's what real kindness is like, soft in touch, but unstoppable in force. And let's be honest, being kind in a world that often rewards cruelty is an act of rebellion. It takes incredible emotional maturity to remain calm when someone tests your limits. It takes self-awareness to say, I will not let your chaos steal my character. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. When people underestimate you because of your gentle heart, let them. Don't rush to prove your strength. Strength doesn't need to announce itself. It reveals itself through endurance, integrity, and grace. Over time, your consistency will speak louder than any defense you could ever give. So the next time someone mistakes your kindness for weakness, remember this. Their misunderstanding is their limitation, not your burden. Keep being kind, but never forget that kindness backed by self-respect is unshakable power. You can be both gentle and unbreakable. You can be both compassionate and commanding. You can be both kind and impossible to walk over. Kindness without boundaries is a beautiful act that slowly becomes a heavy weight. When you keep saying yes to everyone, you start saying no to yourself. You begin to stretch beyond your capacity, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, until your kindness stops feeling like love and starts feeling like obligation. That's when kindness becomes exhausting instead of empowering. The truth is, people don't always abuse your kindness out of malice. Sometimes they do it out of habit, because when you never say no, they assume you'll always say yes. You train people how to treat you by what you tolerate. Every time you allow someone to cross a boundary without consequence, you silently teach them that your peace is negotiable. Boundaries are not walls, they are gates. Walls shut people out, but gates let the right people in and keep the wrong ones out. Setting boundaries doesn't mean you stop being kind. It means you choose where your kindness flows. It's an act of self-awareness, not selfishness. You're not withdrawing love, you're directing it wisely. When you fail to draw boundaries, your kindness gets misunderstood. People stop seeing it as a gift and start expecting it as a duty. What was once appreciation becomes entitlement. You start to notice that your presence is no longer celebrated, but assumed. You begin to feel invisible, not because you lack worth, but because your endless giving made others forget your limits. You owe it to yourself to protect your peace. You can be kind and still say, I'm not available right now. You can love deeply and still say, this is not healthy for me. The most powerful form of kindness begins with honoring yourself first, because when you respect your own limits, you teach others how to respect you too. Remember, boundaries do not reduce your kindness, they refine it. They ensure that what you give comes from abundance, not depletion. They remind you that self-care is not the opposite of kindness, it's the foundation of it. You can't pour from an empty cup, and you shouldn't try. So draw your line, not in anger, but in wisdom. Guard your heart, not with walls, but with clarity. Let your kindness remain pure by keeping it protected, because kindness that lacks boundaries isn't sustainable, it becomes a burden. But kindness protected by boundaries, that becomes power with purpose. There comes a quiet moment in every kind person's life when they realize what once was appreciated is now expected. The thank yous fade, the gratitude disappears, and suddenly your giving becomes background noise in someone else's life. It's not that your kindness lost its value, it's that they stop seeing it. When people get too comfortable with your generosity, they forget it's a choice, not an obligation. They forget that every time you showed up, it was a decision, not a duty. They forget that you had a choice to withhold, but you didn't. And that's when the imbalance begins. When what you offer freely starts being taken for granted. This is how entitlement begins. Slowly, quietly, in the shadow of consistency. The more you give, the more they assume you always will. The more you help, the more they expect you to fix. The more you forgive, the more they assume you'll tolerate. What was once your strength becomes the reason they overlook your humanity. But the problem isn't your kindness, it's their comfort. Comfort numbs awareness. When people grow too used to your light, they stop noticing how brightly it shines. They assume it will always be there, even if they stop appreciating it. That's why your kindness should never come without balance. Give, but give consciously. Help, but with boundaries. Love, but with discernment. You see, there's a deep danger in always being the reliable one. People forget that reliability is built on sacrifice, your time, your energy, your emotional space. They don't see the silent exhaustion behind your smile or the quiet tears behind your patience. And yet they keep taking, not out of cruelty, but because you've made it too easy. There comes a time when you must remind people gently but firmly that your giving heart is not infinite, that kindness does not mean availability, that love is not a license to drain. You do this not to punish them, but to protect yourself. Because when people are reminded that your kindness is voluntary, they begin to see its value again. Never stop giving, but do it from a place of strength, not guilt. Let your generosity come from choice, not pressure. The moment you realize your kindness has become invisible is the moment to pause, step back, and recalibrate. You don't owe endless access to anyone who can't recognize the weight of your effort. So if they've grown comfortable with your giving, don't let resentment grow in your heart. Let wisdom grow instead. Teach them through your actions that kindness is sacred, that your yes carry as meaning, that your giving heart is powerful, not disposable. When you start valuing your effort, others will be forced to value it too. There's a painful truth that every gentle soul eventually learns. Some people don't see your kindness as a blessing. They see it as an opportunity. Manipulators are skilled at identifying the soft-hearted. They can sense empathy the way predators sense vulnerability. They recognize that you forgive easily, that you listen deeply, and that you always look for the good in people. And they use those very virtues as tools to control you. They don't come with warning signs. They come with smiles, apologies, and promises. They mirror your empathy to win your trust. They feed on your need to make things right, to fix what's broken, and to keep peace at any cost. They test your boundaries slowly, taking inch after inch until you realize you've lost miles of your self-respect in the process. These people know your greatest strength, your heart, and they weaponize it against you. They'll say things like, "I thought you cared," or "You're not the same anymore," whenever you start setting boundaries. They'll guilt you into staying quiet, make you second-guess your instincts, and twist your compassion into compliance. That's not love. That's manipulation disguised as connection. The danger lies in thinking your love can change them. You start believing that if you give a little more, if you understand them a little better, they'll finally appreciate your kindness. But manipulation doesn't respond to love. It responds to limits. You cannot heal someone who benefits from your brokenness. To protect your heart, you must understand this. Being kind does not mean being blind. You can be empathetic and still see patterns. You can be forgiving and still enforce consequences. You can be loving and still walk away. True kindness doesn't demand self-sacrifice. It demands self-awareness. Start listening to what people do more than what they say. A manipulator's words are sugar. Their actions are acid. They'll say they value you, but their behavior will drain you. You'll feel smaller around them, more uncertain, more apologetic for things that aren't even your fault. That's not what kindness is meant to create. When your kindness becomes their control, it's time to reclaim it. Pull your energy back. Stand your ground without guilt. Let silence replace over-explaining. You don't need to justify your need for peace. The moment you stop trying to prove your goodness, their power over you collapses. Remember, being gentle doesn't mean being gullible. You can have a tender heart and still carry a strong spine. The most dangerous version of a kind person is one who has learned how to say no without losing compassion. That's when your kindness becomes unshakable, no longer something to exploit, but something to respect. We live in a world that glorifies the loud, the bold, and the unrestrained. The ones who shout the loudest are often seen as the strongest. The ones who move the fastest are considered the most successful. And in this noise, gentleness, quiet, steady, compassionate gentleness gets dismissed, overlooked, or even mocked. Society tells you to stand up for yourself, but what it really means is fight like everyone else. It values aggression over composure, dominance over dignity, and reaction over reflection. And when you choose a different path, when you choose grace instead of chaos, people often see that as weakness. They assume your silence means surrender, when in truth it's self-control. Gentleness is not passivity, it's precision. It's knowing when to speak and when silence carries more power. It's the discipline to stay calm when every instinct tells you to strike back. That kind of restraint takes a strength the world rarely understands. It's easy to shout, easy to react, easy to demand attention, but it takes deep emotional maturity to stay grounded when everything around you is loud. The truth is, gentleness is power under discipline. It's not about shrinking, it's about mastering yourself so completely that no one can provoke you into becoming what you are not. The world might overlook that kind of power, but time always reveals it. Because loudness may dominate the moment, but gentleness shapes the atmosphere. It's the quiet strength that restores peace in a room full of chaos. Unfortunately, this culture often mistakes sensitivity for fragility. It forgets that empathy builds bridges where arrogance builds walls. It forgets that quiet leadership, leading through presence, not pressure, is often the most transformative kind. Think about the people who've truly impacted you. It wasn't always the ones who talked the most, but the ones who made you feel seen, understood, and safe. That's the power of gentleness. It changes people without forcing them. If society doesn't celebrate your calmness, celebrate it yourself. In a world addicted to noise, your peace is revolutionary. When you refuse to match someone's chaos, you're not backing down, you're rising above. When you stay kind in the face of cruelty, you're not naive. You're powerful beyond comprehension. So don't let the world convince you that you need to be louder to be respected. Be steady, be calm, be composed, because storms may be louder than the breeze, but it's the breeze that clears the air. Loudness will get attention, but gentleness will earn trust. And in the end, it's trust, not noise, that changes the world. One of the hardest truths for kind-hearted people to accept is this: sometimes people hurt you not because you did anything wrong, but because your peace exposes their pain. Your calmness unsettles their chaos. Your compassion reminds them of what they've lost. Your emotional steadiness confronts their inner storms. And instead of admiring it, they attack it, because it's easier to project pain than to face it. When you carry peace, you become a mirror. You reflect to others what they have not yet healed. Some people can't stand that reflection. Your empathy highlights their lack of self-awareness. Your forgiveness reminds them of the grudges they still hold. Your kindness unsettles the bitterness they're trying to justify. So rather than learning from your calmness, they try to disturb it. It's not about you, it's about what you represent. You represent stability in a world addicted to drama. You represent understanding in relationships built on ego. You represent love where people have only known defense. That's why you'll often find yourself misunderstood, criticized, or even resented by the very people you tried to help. This projection can take many forms. Some will downplay your kindness, calling it fake. Others will test your patience, trying to make you break so they can say, "See, you're not that kind." Some will even provoke you, not because they hate you, but because they can't stand how grounded you are. Your peace makes their unrest undeniable. But here's what you must remember: their reaction is not your responsibility. You cannot heal what they refuse to confront. You can hold space for people, but you can't carry their pain for them. The moment you start absorbing their projections, you begin losing yourself in battles that aren't yours to fight. Protect your peace the way you protect your heart. Learn to recognize when someone is venting versus when they're transferring. You can empathize without internalizing. You can care deeply without carrying emotionally. True kindness doesn't mean absorbing everyone's wounds. It means knowing when to step back and let them face their own healing. There is nothing wrong with your softness. There is nothing weak about your calm. You're not too sensitive. You're just surrounded by people who confuse numbness with strength. The fact that you still care, still give, still love, even after being hurt, that's power. That's resilience. That's beauty. So when people project their pain onto you, don't let it harden your heart. Let it deepen your understanding. See their attacks for what they are, reflections of their struggle, not judgments of your worth. Stand firm in your peace, because a kind soul grounded in awareness is untouchable. No projection, no bitterness, no pain can shake it. Kind people often carry the weight of emotions that aren't theirs to bear. You might have noticed it, the way someone lashes out when all you did was care, or how a person grows distant after you show genuine kindness. It's not because your compassion was misplaced, it's because your presence awakens something in them that they've been trying to suppress. People project their pain onto kind souls because kindness holds up a mirror they're not ready to face. Your calm reveals their chaos. Your love reminds them of what they never received. Your patience exposes their impulsiveness. And instead of embracing that reflection, they reject it. They attack what makes them feel inadequate. Wait, even if that something is your goodness, it's important to understand when people project, they are not truly seeing you. They are seeing themselves through you. Every unhealed wound, every betrayal, every unresolved resentment gets placed on the nearest safe target. And kind souls often become those targets because they seem safe, forgiving, and non-confrontational. The gentle-hearted become emotional containers for other people's storms. You'll know this is happening when you start feeling drained after being around certain people. They unload their pain, then leave you carrying it. They criticize you not because you did wrong, but because your steadiness irritates their unrest. And sometimes they'll even accuse you of being too kind, too emotional, or too soft because your warmth threatens their defenses. But here's the truth. You were never meant to carry their pain. Compassion doesn't mean absorption. You can feel someone's struggle without making it your own. You can understand without agreeing. You can help without losing yourself. Protecting your peace is not a lack of empathy. It's an act of wisdom. When you realize someone is projecting, step back internally. Don't argue with their pain, and don't personalize their reaction. Tell yourself quietly, this is not about me. Because it isn't. You cannot control what they project, but you can control what you receive. Their anger, jealousy, or disrespect are reflections of their own inner wounds, not reflections of your worth. Keep your heart open, but guarded. Don't let someone's darkness dim your light. Remember, some people will only understand the depth of your kindness after they've healed enough to see it clearly. Until then, let your peace be your boundary. Because when you understand projection, you stop taking things personally. And that's when your kindness transforms from something easily wounded into something powerfully untouchable. There's a quiet ache that grows inside kind people. The ache of giving endlessly to those who never give back. It doesn't happen all at once. It starts small. A favor done without a thank you, a kind gesture met with indifference, an emotional effort that goes unnoticed. Over time, these small moments build into something heavy, a silent resentment that kindness alone cannot erase. Unreciprocated kindness is one of the most painful experiences for a giving heart because it feels like loving into a void. You keep pouring, but nothing returns. You keep showing up, but no one meets you halfway. You begin to wonder if you're being kind or if you're being used, and that question alone begins to wound your spirit. The danger of one-sided kindness is that it slowly convinces you to doubt your own value. You start to believe that maybe your love isn't worth returning, that maybe your effort isn't enough, or that perhaps your kindness is invisible. But the truth is, it's not invisibility, it's imbalance. You're not being seen because you're surrounded by people who've grown too comfortable taking from you. Here's what you must remember. Kindness should not cost you your self-respect. Giving is beautiful, but it must flow both ways to stay pure. When it becomes one-sided, it stops being love and starts becoming sacrifice, and too much sacrifice breeds quiet bitterness. That bitterness doesn't mean you're unkind. It means you've been kind for too long in the wrong direction. The resentment that builds from unreciprocated kindness is silent because kind people rarely confront it. You tell yourself, it's okay, I don't need anything in return. But deep down, every soul craves balance. Even the strongest giver wants to feel seen, valued, and appreciated. Denying that need doesn't make you noble, it makes you human. The solution isn't to stop being kind, it's to become more discerning. Give where energy is mutual. Invest in relationships where gratitude lives. Surround yourself with those who refill you emotionally, not those who drain you. It's not selfish to step back from those who only take its self-preservation. You are not obligated to continue pouring into empty cups. Learn to pause before you give, not because you're withholding love, but because you're protecting your peace. Let your kindness be guided by awareness, not by guilt. The world doesn't need you to give more, it needs you to give wisely. When kindness is reciprocated, it creates connection. When it's not, it creates quiet suffering. And your heart deserves connection, not depletion. So let your kindness continue, but make sure it flows in places where it is seen, valued, and returned. Because true kindness doesn't just give, it receives, replenishes, and restores. There comes a point in every kind person's journey when they realize that kindness alone isn't enough. It must evolve. It must mature into something deeper, sharper, and wiser. True kindness, the kind that cannot be manipulated or misunderstood, is born from experience. It grows out of disappointment, heartbreak, and every moment your goodness was taken for granted. It is kindness that has learned how to protect itself. When kindness evolves into wisdom, it stops begging to be understood. It no longer chases appreciation or validation. It becomes intentional. You give, but with awareness. You help, but with bohem. And Aries, you forgive, but with discernment. You no longer pour into every cup. You pour where the water will not be wasted. That's not coldness, that's clarity. This kind of kindness doesn't mean you love less. It means you love smarter. You stop trying to rescue people who enjoy being broken. You stop explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. You stop overextending yourself for people who wouldn't cross the street for you. Instead, you start investing your energy into peace, growth, and mutual respect.